Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission to order on Thursday, October 1st at 6:34 p.m. In attendance for tonight's meeting is regular members Mace, Sienna, and I'm acting Chair Galdenzi. First order of business will be the minutes from the September 17th meeting. And we cannot do those.
That is correct.
Okay, so maybe, oh no, we need Alex. Okay, we will continue those. Okay. Oh, you're muted, Bill.
Sorry about that. So next order of business under Section 4, new business, is 4A, Connecticut General Statute, Section 8-24 referral for a new police station to be constructed at 305 Forest Road.
So we have Bill Silver, who's an architect and part of the design team on the call, so I'll let him just kind of take it away.
And good evening. My name is Bill Silver. I'm the principal of Silver Petrocelli and Associates, Architects and Engineers, based in Hamden. And since 2016, we have been working on the concepts, the study, and now through schematic design and construction documents for the new police station. Also online today, and not necessarily for this project, but available if you have any questions, is Jim Preddy, who is the civil engineer for the project. And I'll ask Carrie just to throw up the graphics, and I'll take less than 2 minutes to quickly walk you through. I trust many of you have seen the graphics already. And this is an 8-24 referral where we need your board to first grant permission for the use of the property. It is property. This is the existing survey of the property with Forest Road on the left-hand side. North is up on all the sheets that you'll be seeing. And then far to the right and up the hill is the Tilcon boundary and property. Next one, Carrie, go ahead.
Oops, sorry.
This is the site plan that we have developed so far. And again, these are conceptual level or schematic level documents. We will be returning before your board probably within less than a month for a full site plan approval, but it gives you a sense of how the property is planned to be used. And only a portion of it, which is closest to Forest Road, is planned to be used. You can kind of see the outline of the L-shaped building in the center of the parking areas. Gary, that's great. And a one entrance drive off of Forest Road, up the slope to the visitors parking in the front, and then looping around to the staff parking in the back. And there will be storage buildings, perhaps that long parking area to the upslope side of the property may be canopied to protect the police cars, but this is essentially how the property is planned to be used. And again, it's only the lower, about 1/3 of the property. Go ahead, Carrie. The next one is the building floor plan. It's a one-story structure with an attic, partial storage space in the attic, and it shows you the basic functions of the entry at the orange area for the visitors, for the public to use, a large meeting room in the aqua color to the right. The Sally port are the vehicles that you can see in the upper right, and then various staff quarters, and probably as importantly, to meet the new state laws regarding police facilities, there will be the detention area in the dark green right next to the Sally port. So these are the functions that are currently in the police department, but sized for the growth of the department, because if some of you have been on the tour, it is an extremely undersized police department across the street on Forest Road. Keep on going, Carrie. The next plan probably is the attic space. This is just going to be storage and mechanical space and the IT closet, accessed by one stair, but it is truly a one-story structure because this space is under the roof lines. And keep on going, Carrie. To give you a sense of the image, this is the very dry elevations, which hard to read through all the standing seam metal and the vertical siding that is planned for the building, a stone base, glazing for daylighting, obviously, and trying to pick up on a more rural motif that the building committee has preferred as part of it. But again, you can see basically a very low slung building. And then some quick renderings are coming up that give you a piece of the image of the property. This really shows you looking from down the hill from Tilcon toward Forest Road. So you're looking at the back of the property. The Sally Port is to the left. Keep on going, Carrie. And then a little closer, this is from the main entrance road. What the visitors, well, the visitors won't see the drone type of shot, but it gives you a sense of, again, the one-story emphasis, but with that clear story or that ventilation the cupola down the middle of the building. Keep on going, Carrie. It's certainly another shot of the Sally Port and the police car storage in the back of the property. And I think last but not least is the shot of the front, as the visitors will see it in a lower profile, and the hill obviously rising up behind it. All the details that go with the site plan approval will be coming to you, landscaping, all the topography and stormwater benefits that Jim Preddy's group is designing. Obviously will be a full package, but truly this is kind of the quick overview for your 8-24 consideration. And after your action, it will then be referred up to the town council. And I think I've said enough.
Yeah, good. Quick overview is right. Thank you. That was fast. So, Carrie, I just want to understand. So this is just a referral to us just as a consideration and no impact or no input from us, just...
Correct. It's either favorable or not favorable. And really, you're just looking at the concept of the town building a new facility. So anytime the town purchases new property, sells land, builds a new facility, a town-owned building, then it's through the Connecticut General Statute 8-24, so an 824 referral.
Yep. The only comment I had is the comment we have a lot from applications, and I know we probably don't have much impact on this, but, and it's not like I don't like this, and I appreciate that the building committee's been through it and they talked about the rural character, but I would just challenge as much as you can get. You know, it's a new building, and anytime we try to build something new in our town, we really want to, you know, impress upon the rural characters of the town. And I'm not saying I don't like this, but I mean, as much as we can really drive that as much as possible, I would appreciate that for sure. That's just a comment, I guess.
Is there any other questions or discussion?
I don't, you know, it's funny. Is the current police station only have one entrance? I'm surprised. I'm kind of I'm not in the police business, but I'm in environmental health and safety. And we always talk about, you know, contingencies and access. And I'm surprised that there's only one entrance to this facility.
So
police department standpoint, but maybe that's common in that industry. I don't know.
Depending on the size of the facility, how many specially patrol cars are involved, yes, it might prompt two, but you know the current one currently only has one entrance as well.
I meant more for contingencies in this day and age. You know, you take out one entrance, and then I mean you could drive over the lawn, and obviously, but anyway, that's just a comment.
And we're in touch with the chief and the staff and the committee, the chief especially, almost daily. So we'll ask that question and pose it and make sure that it's answered when we come back before your board.
Yeah, thank you.
Is the storage space in the attic going to be used a lot? Because I know when I go in my attic enough, like I always hit my head. So should there be more headroom and walking room?
Well, this attic will have adequate headroom. It's going to be 8 foot at the eaves and then even higher at that midpoint. And
good.
It's not going to be frequently used. It's going to have 2 air handlers over in the north end, and they really intend to use it for storage, for paperwork, for uniforms, and the like. They're prohibited by code, by building code, for using it for any other uses. So it will not be active, at least in terms of us humans.
So just to reiterate what Bill Silver was mentioning, this will come back before planning and zoning as part of a site plan application. So that's where we'll see all of the details, but this is just a quick overview. So I did prepare a motion. Let me I can share that.
So this is just an 8-24 referral. Either we thumbs up, thumbs down kind of
Correct.
thing. Yep. Okay. Yep. Pretty standard. Okay. Is there any, just Ron and Trish, any more comments or discussion? Again, we'll see it in the site plan. This is just literally just a it's a referral to us, just say, you know, we recommend, I guess it's recommend.
Have a favorable recommendation.
Favorable, yeah.
Right.
Favorable, yep.
Yeah, it's been talked about a lot, and I'm sure it's been fleshed out a ton by people with way more expertise. So
Good point.
I was just worried about people banging their heads, even if they go up there a couple times.
Yeah. Ron, any further discussion or anything?
Actually, it's nothing to do with the building. I just see a row of police cars behind the police station out in the weather. This is New England, and when a police officer reports for duty, you know, in a snowstorm, does he have to spend a half an hour digging out his cruiser?
And so to answer your question, you are seeing early concept drawings, and after those were prepared, the building committee said, let's try and see if we can afford to put a carport over all those vehicles. So yes, they hope. And the problem is that we've got a tight budget to work with. That's already dictated by the town council, and so we're going to see how far we can go.
Next iteration is carport with solar panels, electric vehicles. That would be really nice, but we'll get there someday.
Yes, we will.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Okay. I think there's a motion here if someone wants to make a motion.
I'll read it. I make a motion that the Planning and Zoning Commission report favorably on the CGS Section 824 referral from the Town Council regarding the proposed construction of a new North Branford Police Station at 305 Forest Road.
Second, anyone?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Trish?
Aye. Yes.
Yeah, Ron?
Aye.
And I'm a yes as well, so that motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So long,
Thank you.
everyone. Yeah, thanks, Carrie.
Okay, next under 4B is P&Z application 2020-10. It's a site plan under section 23, schedule A, line C-2 and D-3 for construction of an accessory dwelling to be used for storage of an office space and office space.
Sorry, yes, and office.
Yeah, that's okay. And office space for aquatic pool and spa, principal business use of the site at 1437 Middletown Avenue, Zone B2. Owner and applicant LTJ Enterprises, LLC.
I do not see the engineer on the call, so he may have assumed that we were waiting until they receive approval from wetlands or a decision from wetlands, but they submitted this application at the same time that they submitted the wetlands application, which is why I wanted to at least provide it to the commission. So I think unless he joins late, I think at this point we should just continue this
Okay, we need a
to
motion.
the next meeting.
Sorry. We need a motion to continue.
Sure. Was it the 15th? I make a motion to continue Planning and Zoning Commission application 2020-10, site plan under section 23, schedule A, line C2 and D3 for construction of an accessory building to be used for storage and office space for aquatic pool and spa, principal business use of the site at 1437 Middletown Avenue, Zone B2, owner and applicant LTJ Enterprises LLC, to be continued to the regular meeting on October 15th.
Do I have a second? All right. You might have to vocalize that, just if you don't mind.
Yes,
Ron.
sometimes the cursor moves around on me.
Doesn't wanna listen.
Thumbs up. Yeah,
Thumbs up. It's good.
second, okay. All in favor of continuing?
Aye.
Trish?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that will continue to the next meeting on October 15th. Okay, 4C is P&Z application 2020-11. It's a site plan under section 23, schedule A, line C-1.1 for change of use to medical marijuana dispensary at 1874 Middletown Avenue. It's Zone B, and the owner is 1874 Middletown Avenue, LLC, applicant attorney Jeffrey Beatty.
So the applicant is on the call. Hopefully I've yep, good. Allowed them to unmute. I think we'll let them go through their presentation first, and then I can go over any comments from the department heads.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Beatty, 705 Boston Post Road, Guilford, on behalf of the applicant, or the owner, 1874 Middletown Avenue, LLC. This is our site development plan application to convert the current use of the property from a restaurant to a medical marijuana dispensary. I'm joined with Rob Sonicson from Waldo Associates, whose firm prepared the floor plan and the site development plan that was submitted to the town. We're applying under line C-1.1 of your regulations, section 23, schedule A, and we believe that we satisfy the requirements of your regulations, and I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Sonicson to make some statements with regard to the facts and the layout of the property. And we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thanks, Jeff. My name is Rob Sonicson. I'm a registered professional engineer with the firm of Waldo and Associates, and we prepared the site plan for 1874 Middletown Avenue. I think we can do it from our end, and so I'm going to have Dirk put the, this is a piece of the,
Rob, can you start to share the application?
oh, okay.
Can everyone see that?
Yep.
There's a piece of the town GIS map that shows the location of the property and the adjacent properties. It's a zone B1. Property's located about a mile north of Northford Center on the west side of Route 17. It's about 1.3 miles south of the Durham town line. Immediately across the street from the property is the Northford Industrial Park, which has storage facilities in it and an industrial building. Adjacent to the industrial park to the south is Northford Park, which is a municipal park. Adjacent to the property on the north, on the west side of Route 17 is a fence company. To the south is a filling station with a separate residential structure on that property. So those are the surrounding properties. In general, the area is rural residential in most cases. This is a pocket, and along Route 17, I'm sure as you know, there is quite a bit of commercial development of various types. The lot, let's go to the site plan before the floor plan. Okay. This is the site plan that we've drawn of the property. It's 1.21 acres in size. One of the things that came up after we submitted the original application was we saw what we thought was a sanitary sewer manhole in Middletown Avenue, but we found out that actually the property is on septic. So we revised the site plan, and you can see the septic system is located under the parking lot, which is on the south side of the building that's on the site. The site's currently used as an Italian restaurant. The building area is 2,790 square feet. There are 25 parking spaces in the parking lot. Why don't you, and before you go from that, Dirk, so all of the development is on the eastern side of the property. The western side of the property is all undeveloped, wooded and grassed area. So we have a closer look at the site plan. This is the southern area of the site plan. You can see the buildings on the northern portion of the site. Like I said, it's 2,790 square feet. That includes a solarium on the front of the building. We have a couple of photos we can show you in a second. The entrance is on the south side of the building. It goes to a parking lot, which I indicated before, has 25, currently has 25 parking spaces. There's one sign on the property which identifies the restaurant used currently. That sign isn't proposed to be changed, but it would obviously the name of the location will change. One of the things that Carrie asked that I talk about is site lighting. Right now there are 2 floodlights that light the parking lot. One is on the south side of the building, about the middle of the building, which lights the northern part of the parking area. And one is almost directly across from that light on the southern property line, and it shines on the parking spaces on the southern portion of the parking lot. In looking at those light fixtures, it doesn't appear that they are full cutoff, which is the current requirement that the town has. And we will have a lighting consultant provide a full lighting plan to make sure that there's adequate lighting coverage in the parking area. It hasn't been a problem at the site up to this point in time, but Carrie brought up the requirement for full cutoff. And like I said, based on my observation, I don't believe that the 2 major fixtures are full cutoff. There also are lights over the entranceway and other photometric security lights around the back of the property, but those are really security lights and not related to the parking lot or site lighting. Those are the highlights of the site plan. The facility is on septic and it has a well. There's propane. It's heated by propane. There's a propane tank along the northern property boundary in the sort of the more western portion of the developed portion of the property, and a concrete dumpster pad, which is immediately south of the propane tank. Currently, there's also a mobile storage unit outside of the building, and that mobile storage unit is expected to be removed as part of the site reuse. Carrie asked that we provide a site plan, a floor plan, and we did research on similar facilities around the country and came up with one that we thought would be well suited to this particular site. The plan is not to change the exterior of the building at all. All the work will essentially be done interior. And so we started with the existing floor plan and tried to change what needed to be changed and provide the facilities that would be needed for the proposed use. The entryway location is not going to change. The entryway may need to be made a little bit wider, but right now it's a single entryway and it will be a single exit. The only other exit doors that there are in the facility are alarmed fire doors. So the customers will come in through the existing entranceway and enter a waiting room. Dirk, if you could show where these things are. They'll enter a waiting room that has a security desk. There's some chairs and locations that people can sit in there. The first thing that happens is the customer comes in and checks in at the security desk. And at that point in time, they are asked to proceed through into the secure room in the rear of the facility, in which they'll meet an attendant. They will go to one of the terminals in which they will look at the available products that are available to them, and they will give their order to the attendant. The attendant will proceed to the secure storage area to fill the order. The people that have made their orders have an opportunity to go out to the solarium and sit and wait for the order to be filled, or sit at the table that's in the secure area. The attendant will come back with the order to the customer, give it to them. They will proceed back to the security desk to check out, and then they will leave the site. One of the things that Carrie asked about were restrooms, and we showed our original floor plan didn't show restrooms, but Carrie asked about them, and we added 2 restrooms where the existing restrooms for the restaurant are. It was convenient to do that. We modified the storage area to some extent, but that was the only other change we made beside the addition of the security doors. So that's the general layout. And there are a number of different optional layouts for facilities of this nature, but this one is one that we thought would work. The owner said that it looked good to him, and so that's our floor plan for the facility. That is, I think, the presentation that I was planning on making on the application. I'd like to turn it back over to Jeff, because Jeff made a response to some other comments that Carrie had, and I just want to make sure we get all of our responses to the staff comments on the record.
Thank you, Rob. Some of the questions that were asked have already been addressed in Rob's presentation, but just to cover the ones that were asked that weren't, I made.
So, I'm sorry. Asked by who?
I'm sorry?
Who asked these questions?
We received them from Carrie Duquesne.
All right. Yeah. Do we have to read those in first, Carrie? Are these comments that from staff? I'm sorry, I just misunderstood.
No, I think Attorney Beatty is speaking to the letter that he sent
Okay.
to me and I had forwarded to all of you.
Gotcha, I have it. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Sorry for misunderstanding.
That's exactly what I was referring to.
Okay, sorry about that.
Not a problem.
Go ahead.
So among the questions was whether or not the applicant has a permit from the state of Connecticut in hand to operate a dispensary at the property. It does. Our client does not have a permit at this time. He's been approached by several parties interested in purchasing the property once a site development plan is approved. He's not currently under contract to sell the property to them, but either he or those persons or entities approaching him would either apply for a plan, or if they may already, I don't know if they all have permits in hand, but some of them may. So that may be an answer to the question, but the applicant does not have a permit in hand. We addressed the question with regard to the on-site septic system. We originally thought that it was served by a sewer, but it's in fact served by an on-site septic system. As Rob mentioned, there are no planned changes to the exterior of the building. All of the proposed work is on the interior. There's no new landscaping proposed. We're proposing to use the existing parking area and landscaping on site. There were no planned changes to the existing lighting, but I think as Rob mentioned, we could prepare a lighting plan that would comply with the regulations with regard to the scope and character of the lighting required by the regulations. The dumpster pad is shown on the site development plan in its existing location. We believe it's been there for some time, but if the applicant is required to relocate it, they would certainly do so within the applicable setback and screening requirements of your regulations. The storage unit, as was pointed out, is not a fixed structure. It could be relocated either on-site or more likely off-site in order to comply with any setback requirements. And then there's a question with regard to the sign, which appears to be within or located on the property owned by the Department of Transportation. The applicant has not received any request from the Department of Transportation to relocate its present sign. They'd like to leave the sign in its present location, but if the DOT requested it be moved, then they would certainly comply with that request.
Does the sign meet our requirements? I'm sorry, I missed. You know, because it's
The sign does not meet our setback requirements. If you look at the site plan, the sign itself actually straddles the property line, and our regulations require that it be set back about 10 feet from the property line. But like a lot of these signs, it's pre-existing, non-conforming, but if they were to have new signage on there, then we could maybe revisit it at that time.
Yep.
Can you speak to the current use? And it's currently a restaurant. Is the intention to give up that use if this were to be approved?
If this were to be approved, my client is prepared to give up that use. Yes.
Okay. I can go through the staff comments if that would be helpful, Bill.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Vince Marino, the town attorney. Attorney Beatty, can you just so that we're clear, assuming there were an approval in place, would that mean that the day after the effective date of the approval, when the existing use would be no longer an approved use of that your client would give up the use as of that date?
I haven't asked him the exact date he would give it up, but I'm sure he would do he would act as quickly as possible to comply with the regulations. If that meant ending it on the date that the approval went into effect, I'd have to discuss it with him, but I'd recommend that that's the date he stopped.
okay. Unless the commission has any questions at this point, maybe we'll go to staff comments.
Okay.
Okay, yeah,
The-
please.
The fire marshal said no problem with said proposal. The owner occupant must follow all pertinent codes, Connecticut General Statute, NFPA, Connecticut Fire Safety and Fire Prevention Codes. All requirements will be handled at the building application process. And the town engineer just clarified that the property is served by on-site septic system, not public sewers, as listed on the original site plan, and no other site improvements are proposed, only a change of use. And the zoning enforcement officer did not have any comments or concerns. Those were all of the staff comments I received.
Okay. Any,
So I guess just general comments, just to review this. So as you're aware, we do not have a regulation that specifically regulates medical marijuana or marijuana for retail consumption. Obviously, the state doesn't even do that. But the point being that this then falls under retail use, similar to a pharmacy. So that is the line in the zoning regulations that this is falling under. So it's retail use. It's being reviewed as a site plan. There's no specific additional standards that are required above and beyond site plan application that looks at things that we've discussed: landscaping, parking, lighting, dumpster coverage, all of those things, signage, etc.
Chairman, also, just to add to what Ms. Duque has said, and Attorney Beatty has already indicated that his client does not currently have a license to engage in the dispensary business. And I don't, if one were to look at the state's website, the state is not currently accepting applications for medical marijuana dispensaries. That being stated, I don't know if that's necessarily a concern of this commission, meaning that the commission is involved in the regulation of land use. And if the current application meets your regulations, if the applicant is engaging in what we might say in the business world as speculation, I want to see if I can get an approval so that I can enhance the value of my property. You know, that's his right to do. And if he, even though today there's no indication that he or anyone is going to be eligible for a medical marijuana dispensary license today, tomorrow, there's nothing on the state's website to indicate when they may reopen the licensing process. So the questions for the body is whether or not the applicant has met your standards for exactly what Carrie has indicated, and that is the retail use like a pharmacy might be, ultimately, which is what a medical marijuana dispensary is. We may look at it a little bit more uniquely because of the subject nature, but it is a drug that is dispensed in accordance with a prescription. So I just wanted the commission to be aware, assuming that you were to vote in favor of this application, it does not necessarily mean that the applicant will be successful in ever opening up a dispensary at the location. In addition to the the state not accepting applications, when you look at their regulations, one of the things that the state does is it determines what appropriate locations might be throughout the state.
I wondered that, with a park.
So, because the ultimate goal is, unlike a liquor permit where it's one license for every 2,500 people, there's no real stated process other than what the regulations lay out. And what the state has set for criterion is to determine what it believes would be an acceptable or appropriate location. And that I don't know how they make that determination. And I will say there is a location in Branford. Might that make North Branford not a desirable location or not? I can't answer that question. I would say in the city of Milford, there are 2 dispensaries, so it's not unheard of that they can put 2 in close proximity. But I think it's driven by patients, and the goal ultimately is to ensure that patients aren't driving an excessively far distance to obtain the needs that the doctors have prescribed for. So, so, but that concept and that issue, once the commission were to adopt regulations that might regulate this subject matter, you might get into. But for purposes of the moment, since you don't have any specific regulations, whether or not the applicant has a license, may get a license, may never get a license, I don't necessarily know is meaningful, unfortunately. I think that what you have to do is look at the application, look at it on its merits, and look at it to say whether or not it meets your regulations for but I think the closest thing you have is a pharmacy or but I just wanted to make sure you were aware that an approval tonight doesn't guarantee that you're going to have a dispensary.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that clarity because I wondered that as well.
Same, that was one of my questions.
Bill?
Yes.
I got a few questions. The close proximity to the Nordford Park there. I guess my question is the after hours, the patients congregating in the park, would that I guess there is no limit like a liquor store has to be so many feet from, it can't be any closer to a church or a playground. But the medical marijuana patients could congregate in the park. Is that I'm just thinking out loud, would that be a potential problem that has to be addressed? For one thing. The second thing is something like this, a medical marijuana store, insofar as there aren't any in town, would this require a public hearing? Would that be advantageous for us to get the input from the town as opposed to right now with the bare minimum for a quorum to make the decision?
Mr. Chairman, I would simply indicate, number one, there's nothing that states that you have to make your decision tonight. You can ask your questions and you can put it on your next agenda and come back and make your decision at your next meeting. Number two is because you don't have a regulatory process with respect specifically to medical marijuana dispensaries, I think you are obliged to treat this like any other application would be treated. So it should not be treated specially because of the subject matter, even though we may have a desire to do so. We have to resist that desire and treat it just like every other application because while it may be a matter of concern for some, it is just an application and it's selling a widget. You got to think of it that way.
But don't we have the option of calling a public hearing at any time?
There is that option.
There's also
We're still required to act within 65 days, which takes us to November 21st. So, and then even though we would have, if we did have a public hearing, we're still limited to the guidelines and requirements of a site plan.
Yeah.
And with respect to your first question, sir, Mr. Commissioner, with respect to the concern of congregation of patients, in my experience, and I've dealt with some medical marijuana facilities in other municipalities, and I can't speak to how this one might be operated because there's no specific user, that would be there based upon the presentation. However, it's a highly regulated industry by the state. It generally is set by appointment. So a person, you wouldn't walk into a medical marijuana dispensary like you might go into CVS or Rite Aid. It's normally done by appointment where the person would come. There's normally not more than a patient or two in a given window of time. It is not done in a way where you might think of a Colorado marijuana dispensary for recreational purposes. And even there, you don't tend to have the congregation of people around the dispensary because, the law forbids it. So, I doubt, I don't know what tomorrow brings. I doubt you're going to have a concern and I think you'd be surprised at the character of the patient, the description of the patients that might be frequenting a location. They may look just like you or me. And not necessarily those who would go frolicking in your woods. I suspect, like most other dispensaries that I've come upon in my experience, a patient will come, they will provide their prescription. There's a security process in order to get into the facility where they have to show their ID. They have to confirm it was their appointment. They go in, they make their purchase, they get into their car, and they leave. So it's not kind of like might come out of a liquor store and sit on the curb and have a drink. So I've never, in any of the municipalities where this exists, where I represent, I've never heard of that concern, but it's a legitimate question.
Yeah, Carrie, we didn't get any input from the police department. Could we check on that too?
Sure. So I'll confirm with them. So the police department did share with me the conditions and approval that was issued in Branford, just as kind of information, which was helpful. They have a different process, though. They have a special exception. And so they did, Branford did apply some special conditions, such as
Can I just,
limiting.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
I kind of agree with Ron. I mean, usually we get a referral to the police department and they give us statements and not just references.
Sure,
to
I'll
the right?
clarify that with them.
Yeah,
That's
they
fine.
can include that as part of, they can adopt those referrals as part of their opinion, but don't they give opinions for everything else that comes before us? It seems like they would give it for this as well.
Right, and the comment really was, look at, see Branford. that was the comment, but I'll just clarify that to see if there's any specific.
They usually give us boilerplate, so they could, in addition to the boilerplate, give us these comments as well.
Okay.
In addition.
So kind of along those lines of Branford, one thought is to maybe have the opportunity to drive by that location on our own time to just see what that facility looks like, so that you have an idea of what the outside looks like, what if there's people there going in or out or whatever, just as a suggestion.
Yeah, I'm aware. So I did have a question for the applicant that has, and I totally understand this is a site plan and you have the right under this, it's a B1 zone. But I'm all about when we have the ability to buy new properties, folks buy new properties, renovate our properties, to really look at our rural nature and say, is there any opportunity for improvements? And I was a little, not upset certainly, but disappointed that, maybe understandable what you mean, but I was disappointed, to be honest with you, that you're going to do interior renovations to make it a space for this dispensary and no outside improvements. And I think there's great opportunity here to do exterior improvements, especially if you're going to buy this property and sell it, So I know we can't require that of you, but I certainly compel you to if you could take a look at that and reconsider that, because I think there's great opportunity. That's just a comment.
Thank you.
So, commission,
Yes. Sorry, just one other, so if you, since it doesn't sound like anyone's jumping at, obviously a decision at this exact moment, but Attorney Beatty, it sounded like maybe there was some additional follow-up with your client just about what their intentions were. If they were willing to abandon the restaurant use, but maybe just questioning the timing of that. Is that one follow-up?
I think they would abandon it when they needed to. As I indicated, I would recommend that they not do anything to be out of compliance with the zoning regulations. And so if the site development plan were approved, then I would advise them that the date that the approval went into effect, assuming it to be after any appeal period expired, and say this is the date that you need to stop operating your restaurant at that facility. So that would be my recommendation to him.
Okay.
I have a couple questions, Carrie, for you or the applicant. So I should know this, but I don't. I apologize, or I'm not entirely sure. So the ZBA approvals from the past just transfer over, right? There's the
Correct. Those
the
run with the
non-conforming,
land.
even though it's not a change of use necessarily, a change of type of business, but it's still a use in the B1 zone. Yeah.
Right. So
And then
which one in particular? Because the one that I'm aware of is the alcohol. Is that?
I just saw or there was the one above that in your comments there. Oh, yeah, the street line setback from 50 to 10 and a half,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
just transfers over. It's a non-conforming use. It stays with the property. Yeah, okay, I thought so. The other thing the lighting, you were saying, the one in the north shines on the south, and you weren't moving the cursor, unfortunately. I apologize. And I didn't have my map in front of me. I would like to understand the lighting a little bit more. So, if I understand, there's only two spotlights that light the property?
That's correct. There are two floodlights.
And I guess the only thing that you said was they're not down facing, so you'd have to change those out, but there's no plan to do any enhancements beyond that. Is that what you said? I'm sorry.
The two lights are floodlights, and they are not full cutoff fixtures, in my opinion, based on observation of them. And Carrie indicated that your current regulations require full cutoff fixtures. You can't just change out those fixtures to make them full cutoff. So there is a likelihood, in order to be able to get appropriate coverage, lighting coverage of the parking area and the facility, and not have light spilling to other properties, which is really the goal of the full cutoff, there would have to be some additional lighting fixtures that would be installed on the site.
Okay.
But at this point in time, we haven't done a lighting design, but we would certainly do that and come up with a lighting plan that meets all of the local regulations.
Okay. That was understand. That was my comment, is just certainly the neighbors and the cutoff, that's extremely important, but also the lighting for the facility itself, if that's inadequate. I'm not saying it's inadequate, but that you've done a study and you're going to make appropriate enhancements.
That's correct.
Okay. Commission, any?
I mean, I don't have the regs for retail, this is coming under like retail pharmacy. I don't have them in front of me, but it just sounds like the way the information is being presented is that the application does satisfy the regs of retail pharmacy. Is that what I'm understanding? Because I just don't have them in front of me.
Yes.
Okay. The other thought I was having is, like, we're a really good team, and I'm a huge supporter of divergent thinking and getting a lot of perspective. So I would like to hear, just the perspective from the rest of the commission, because for example, I know Alex, thinks of things like, can we put this type of plant here or there? I don't know. So I would like to get the input from the rest of the commission and, their thoughts. And to hear it firsthand. There's a difference between hearing it firsthand and interacting live versus, reading the minutes or watching it. So, I don't know if we're able to do that, but that's just what I'm thinking right now.
Yeah, I think even Attorney Marino even said, obviously, we're not compelled to act tonight. We have a time frame to act, but we can certainly continue this. And I agree with that. And I think, I don't want to put words in Ron's mouth, but I think we had all kind of conferred that, having the more of the commission involved, as you mentioned, we work well as a team. So it would be good to get all of our perspectives so we're all on board with this decision. And plus, I think quite frankly, I think we need the police report. And then it was the understanding, Attorney Beatty, that the lighting plan, is that something that we'll have available if we continue this to the next meeting?
I would defer to Mr. Sonicson on that.
We
Okay,
expect that we'll be able to provide a lighting plan that meets your regulations by the next meeting.
okay.
And I know that the other thought I have, and I know that, as a commission, we could decide and vote if we want a public hearing or not. So I just would like to flesh that out more and discuss that more as well.
I was going to comment, so Carrie, just so we're clear, I mean, I guess we have the authority to ask for that, but I mean, the other avenue, and I don't think there's been any petitioning, but obviously if the public 25 or more petition for a public hearing, that kind of compels us to have a public hearing as well. So there's two different avenues. We don't
Well,
have.
I think,
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead, sorry. No, go ahead.
I think that's more, I think that applies to the wetlands.
Okay, sorry.
That's
You're on both boards.
Sorry, take that hat off. Yeah.
But as the commission, so the public really doesn't have any input at this
Okay,
moment in time until you open it up to them.
gotcha. Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I would just inquire of the applicant, and again, on behalf of the commission, and I appreciate that today there are no potential users or contract purchasers, but at the time that an applicant is able to submit an application to the state for a license, the state is going to require specific things at the site.
Mm-hmm.
And would there be modifications that would be necessary that would deviate from this plan, necessitating further review by this body? And has that been considered by the applicant?
Yeah, good point.
Because, for example, security setbacks, security enhancements to the property, the lighting, we're talking about the lighting to comply with the local regulations. But does the state require different type of lighting for security purposes related to a medical marijuana dispensary? And so when I'm looking at section 21A-408-14 of the state regulations that talks about dispensary facility license selection, it talks about, the site itself. And I'm just curious, not only for the benefit of the commission, but also obviously for the applicant, because might be better for the applicant to, if enhancements need to be made, do that at this stage rather than, having to come back at a future point and have this issue come before the table. So I just ask it because I was curious.
That's it. It's a good point.
Is that a question?
Again, it's if there are, it's the applicant's application and it's their site plan. It's the applicant's site plan. So being asked for the commission to review the site plan for purposes of locating a medical marijuana dispensary on site. And one of the things I suppose the commission might consider are there regulatory requirements that need to be met at the state level with respect to the site plan? Have those obligations been met with this site plan?
Mhm.
Because to grant an approval for a medical marijuana facility or a site plan that doesn't necessarily conform, I'm not saying it does or it doesn't, I haven't reviewed it and inspected for that purpose, doesn't conform with state requirements, would seem to me to be inconsistent and not necessarily the best decision for a land use body to make.
Mhm.
So I think there's two regulatory frameworks that the commission might consider here. One is its own, which I think we've already discussed, but also what is required at the state level, and is that satisfied? Because it didn't sound like there was major or many modifications to the structure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, that's something that we could look into, and it sounds as though it's likely that this discussion or this consideration is going to be continued to at least the next meeting of this commission. So that's something we can look into and report back on what we're able to determine.
That's a good point, because I just assumed it met the state regs for security. Because why would you
Or any-
change the
any-
use and do all that if it didn't meet the state regs and then you couldn't get a license? So that was a good point.
Yeah, any of the requirements beyond even security, right? Whatever they may be. Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, any other comments or discussions? Carrie, anything more?
Just one thing to note, if you are considering having a public hearing, there needs to be proper notice for something like that. So just again, thinking about the 65-day timeline and then proper notice, the 65 days gets eaten up pretty quick.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe we'll take, yeah, go
I
ahead.
just want because one of the commissioners, I think, had mentioned it, maybe what we can do, Carrie, is I can forward to you a set of the regulations from the state on the medical marijuana dispensary, so the commissioners can familiarize themselves with it.
Yeah,
before the next meeting. But under 21A 408-14 subsection A, I'm sorry, not A, C1, C1, I'm sorry, C2C. So 21A 408-14 C2C, one of the considerations that the state will take is whether the proximity of the proposed dispensary facility will have a detrimental effect upon any place used primarily for religious worship, public or private school, covenant, charitable institution, whether supported by private or public funds, hospitals or veterans' homes, and any camp or military establishment. So there are comparable concepts to the location of a liquor store. But that all those concepts are contained in these regulations. And I think just for since this is the first time you're considering this type of facility, and because you don't have specific regulations addressing it, I think before you can be fully learned to make an informed decision, you should at least familiarize yourself with these state regulations.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Attorney Marino, greatly. Yeah. So, Commission, two things that we can further discuss. I think two things for us. First of all, do we feel we want to continue this?
Yes.
Ron?
You're on mute.
You're still
You're
muted,
still on
Ron.
mute.
How's that?
That's good.
Way better.
Yes, I think we should continue this.
Okay. So So we'll continue. We'll make a motion to do that later. But the second point I just would like to talk about is this idea of a public hearing. Just so we can discuss it now. As Carrie mentioned, we're time bound, so we really need to notify folks if that's something we are thinking of.
I'm on the fence. That's kind of why, I want to flesh it out with our commission.
Yeah.
I'm open-minded. Usually, historically, I'm, we represent the people, let's give them their say, but then sometimes it gets confused. And you might engender more difficulty because it's a site plan and not a special permit. So I'm super on the fence, which is also why I'm being open-minded and just would like to hear other perspectives.
Ron, any thoughts on that?
I think we should have a public hearing on it. I mean, it's, like I said before, it would be three of us making a decision when in fact it would affect the town in a way that it hasn't been affected before. So I think we need the input from the rank and file.
Yeah, so for me, I'm a little bit more I'm on the fence. I'm a little bit probably less for public hearing, only because this is a site plan and it's unlike a special use where you can use discretion. It's kind of just looking at the bulk standards and they meet them or not, right? But Carrie, if we were, is that something we would need to decide tonight?
No,
Okay.
because we could advertise, right? We can advertise we typically advertise in sound. We can advertise in the register, and there's different lead times, so we can meet the requirements for legal notice.
So we could get
And
the full commission.
understand also the publication requirements have been modified by the executive order. So
Right.
there's no longer while the executive order is in place, which continues in place at least until November 9 at the moment. Technically, there's no obligation, although I would encourage you might still want to put it in the paper. You only have to put it on your website.
Yeah. So we could continue, get more of the commissioners together, have more conversation around this, get some more data that we have from the applicant, read the regs for medical marijuana in the state of Connecticut, come back more informed commissioners, and then we could decide at that point. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Accurate.
Okay. For me, I think that makes sense. I don't know if the commission has any more discussion around that or comments.
No, it's just our usual. We like to be thorough. We're very thorough, no matter how big or how small. Sometimes, geez, we're too thorough, and even the more benign situations. I mean, very benign situations, we're thorough. So I just think we're sticking with how we operate, and that's okay.
Yeah. Okay. So if there's no further discussion, then we'll just need a motion to continue to October 15th.
All right, I'll do that. I make a motion to continue application 2020-11, which is the site plan under section 23, schedule A, line C-1.1 for change of use to medical marijuana dispensary at 1874 Middletown Avenue, zone B1. Owner 1874 Middletown Avenue, LLC. Applicant Attorney Jeffrey Beatty, to be continued to the regular meeting on October 15th, 2020.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor, Trish?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. So we'll continue that to October 15th. Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next order of business under 5A, application receipt and scheduling, regular meetings October 15th and November 5th.
Yes, so we have this application that we just discussed that will be continued. Both applications that were listed, B and C, will be continued to the 15th. No new applications are pending at this point. So 5B, this is discussion regarding if ground-mounted solar is calculated as part of lot coverage. Tom Hogarty, our zoning enforcement officer, did some research and didn't hear from too many towns, but the majority of towns that he did hear from, I think he heard from a total of 5, and I think only 1 counted it as coverage. The others did not, and the reason being that the solar panels themselves are actually elevated above the ground, so the stormwater can still get into the ground, and it's not like pavement, it's not impervious.
Mhm.
So his recommendation is to not count the solar panels as a part of lot coverage.
Okay. This is just a discussion point tonight, right? Because I know
Yes.
Alex was very keen on this, so we definitely want Alex in on this.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So I can report that again at the meeting on the 15th.
Yep, please.
Okay, that's great. The next item is discussion regarding public hearing signs. This topic came up because currently applicants that need to post a public hearing sign are given, it's essentially an 11 by 14 piece of paper. It's not as thick as cardboard by any means. It's like poster board, really.
Yep.
And it's fairly flimsy. So I started doing research to find out what other towns do. Do they provide a sign? Do they state specifically the size of the sign that the applicant needs to create? And in talking with the zoning enforcement officer and some other people in the building department, we're now taking the stance of, you know what, the method that we have has been in place for so long. It's not the best just because the poster board is a little flimsy, but people can make it a little bit sturdier. And most importantly, public notification is sent out through email or mail, more mail, certified mail, if there's a public hearing involving a property that affects an adjacent property owner. So we felt like that is the best means of notification. And the sign, like I say, has been in place for a long time. So maybe at this point, just to keep it as is. This was not in a response to a complaint or concern. It was just something that we were kind of batting around internally that I wanted to, talk about with you all.
I'm just curious, what was the benchmarking from adjacent towns? Did they provide signs, or what was it like, the breakdown?
So I don't have it all in a spreadsheet for you, but it was, again, a lot of towns of the adjacent towns require property owners to make their own signs.
Okay.
I felt like that was a little onerous on the applicant, especially if it's just, a property owner or a business for that matter. If they don't have a professional engineer that can make a sign for them, why would they want to take on that expense?
That's very inconsistent too, it seems, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Sure.
Exactly.
I mean, I agree that the signs sometimes there's big, sometimes they're small, but they look the same, and you can always identify them easily, even if you can't read them when you're driving by. You can say, hey, that's a public hearing sign, because they all look the same, at least. I mean,
And then it has like 500 words on it and you can't read it. And you're like, and it's gone.
if you're really interested, you can kind of pull over and read it. But at least it's a public hearing sign because it looks consistent.
Right. So at this point, I would just recommend that we keep it as is and not change it. Maybe when the regulations are redone at some point, hopefully in the next 2 or 3 years, it can be looked at more closely then, but at this point, I think it's okay.
Okay. That didn't require action. That's just discussion, and yeah.
Correct. Right.
Good. Thank you.
And then the POCD, I just wanted to give you an update on that. At the last meeting, one of the items we had talked about is kind of forming some kind of a design committee. And I had talked with Barbara Schellenberg from the town attorney's office about, could we have kind of an ad hoc committee that's made up of someone from planning and zoning, someone from economic development. And her take was that if we have an ad hoc committee, it really has to be made up of only planning and zoning committee members. It can't be, cherry picking from other committees. So
That's
at
interesting.
this point, that's where we kind
Really?
of have landed.
Hmm.
So there could be a separate committee, and there is an actual building design review committee that the town has established, but that's with the town council appointing members. And then I don't know if you have any comments.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, Mr. Chair, it's really the concept is the zoning commission doesn't have any independent authority to appoint non-zoning commission members
Yeah.
to a committee.
That makes sense.
So
Yeah,
you
that
would
makes
have
sense.
to, what you could do is you could send a request to the town council for the creation of the committee you want with the
Right.
recommendation of who you want on it.
Yeah.
That's the way you would
Or-
do it if you want to do it.
Or the membership, and then they appoint who is
Exactly.
someone from the
Ultimately,
economic
even though-
commission. Yeah,
Right, even though you say X, they can decide X minus 2.
right.
Or, they can, but the way you should do it, if you want the committee, is make the recommendation to the town council, and then they can put it together.
Yeah, that makes
And then would that
sense.
require any text amendment of the town code?
The formation of the committee?
Yes.
No, it would be an ad hoc committee for a
Okay.
specific purpose. The legislative body has the authority to do that. The
Mhm.
zoning commission, you could have a subcommittee of yourself, but you can't have you don't have appointing power.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Just do whatever we want.
Start appointing people
Just
to
do it.
positions. Ron, you're the mayor now, Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay.
Okay. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, what's up with the housing, or was it the affordable housing discussion we had last
Right.
week? I'm interested in that.
Yes, so I need to touch base with you separately, and we can kind of talk about a strategy of how to proceed with that. So
Okay.
at some point, I'd like to sit down with the town manager, but I'd like your input on either talking with him, with you, or we also could have this consultant, David Fink, who's been working with the Regional Council of Governments, and he's been the consultant to talk with all of the regional towns about having housing committees and forming them.
Yep.
So we could kind of talk offline about that.
Yeah, just let me know.
Okay. And finally, so the discussion regarding events on farms. So I have the regulations. I'm sorry I didn't share them earlier with you. I mean, paper copies. Let me try and share my screen. So let's see. I was looking for these regulations, and then I was reminded that one version was actually approved last year when the commission approved for farm events for Van Wilgens, but that was specific to parcels that were zoned industrial.
Industrial, yeah, exactly.
So then this was the red line version for farm/outdoor events and activities, specifically in the R80, R40 zones. So this is where we left off.
Yeah, this is the one that Pellegrino took it this far in the meeting, and then they withdrew it that night.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. We were in Stanley T. Williams that night.
Yes. Yes. So I don't know if you have kind of general discussion points, or if we want to go through this.
Can we get it sent to us, and maybe at a future meeting we come with comments?
Of course, of course.
That's just my comment, because I'm not sure
No, I know, we don't have to go through this line by line this evening. I
I don't know
think,
if I have the head for it this evening.
I know.
I'm not as good reading. I need to print. I print things. I print things off and read them and make comments. I'm
Right.
a paper person still.
It's okay, I am too.
Yeah.
I'm also like a person to person as well, not all
Yeah.
automatic and
Yeah.
technology.
So yes, I'll email this to you, and I think from what I recall, one of the main sticking points was number 13 here, the music and entertainment and the hours
Yeah.
and the type of music, if it was amplified.
Amplified, yeah.
So I'll send this to you and we can.
I mean, yeah, we said it before. I mean, we put a lot of effort into this. I think, yeah, let's get to it and trust ourselves and
Yeah.
Right.
what we need to do.
Yeah, we had a lot of conversations on this one, and then the other ones kind of sprouted, and this one fell behind, and the other ones moved forward. So
Yeah.
I think this
Right,
was
well,
the
and
first, this is the first one we started, though. Yeah.
Right, and I think some of the sticking points were with residential, it was very difficult because of the distance required between properties
Yeah.
and the size of the parcel versus when you all reviewed the regulation for an industrially zoned property. It was such a large parcel and the surrounding use was mainly industrial, so it seemed to be a little bit more streamlined for you all to consider.
Well, for sure. Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
So, okay, I'll stop scrolling through this and I'll just email it to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, did I say last meeting that? Yes, the Southern Regional Council hasn't had meetings, but I think we're having one in October. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is a meeting in October.
Have they been virtual?
We haven't had them, but this one is virtual.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
One quick question. I realize we're at the end of the agenda, but I was asked, does planning and zoning have anything to do with the cell tower they're planning on putting behind Totoket Valley School?
So that is a good question. So at this point, no, it will be reviewed. If it moves forward, will be reviewed by the Connecticut Siting Council. And we may have the opportunity because if it's on town property, there, I believe, would be an 824 referral for the construction of the cell tower. But it goes before the Siting Council.
Yeah.
So we in fact have nothing to do with it.
Limited, I would say.
Yeah, certain things with the siting council, they kind of trump our jurisdiction, like solar panels, solar farms and things. Right? Utilities and things like that. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
You got nothing else? I mean,
We
let's
do
just
have-
stall 4 more minutes, make it till 8. No.
We do have Ron here tonight, though, finally,
Yes.
to close us out. Ron, they've been making me close out because I guess I'm the next one in line. I don't know.
Just remember, you're just a trainee.
Yeah.
That being said, I motion we adjourn.
All right.
I second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Excellent.
All right, everybody, stay well. Good to see you.
Thanks, Jenny. Yeah, thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Have a great night. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.